podcast where I talk to cool people about the amazing things they're working on. My name is Matt, and I have the incredible honor sitting down this time with Spencer Campbell, aka Gila RPGs, to talk about his upcoming game, Dragon Slayers. Spencer's someone I've wanted to have on the show for a really long time, and I was very excited to talk to him about his upcoming game and his previous games and Destiny more than once. That was actually really exciting. Now, we actually recorded this interview about 2 months ago, and I held it to get some other episodes out the door for projects that were a little more time related. But with the Dragon Slayers Kickstarter coming up very, very soon, you finally get to hear it. And you'll hear more from me in the outro. Spencer, how are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I am... I'm a lot of words.
Me too.
Actually, yeah, if we want to just sit here and list some words, we could probably get a lot.
Yeah. I did the classic Midwest thing, which is I'm good, obviously, and I won't talk about any of the things that are not good.
Yeah, the classic, like, living the dream. And it's like,
yep.
Yeah?
Who dreamed that?
Yeah,
Who's dreamed that?
Why are you dreaming this?
We should talk to that person.
You should talk to someone about, maybe keep a dream journal and then talk to someone about the
Good
entries in that. I am astounded. I don't know what to do with myself anymore. I have told no less than 4 different people how excited I would be to have you on the podcast. And then now this is happening. And then last week I interviewed Jason Cordova.
Oh shit, that's awesome.
Yeah, so like it's a wild time. It's a wild time to be me right now.
Hell yeah, that rocks. I got to meet Jason for the first time at PAX, this last PAX, and it was just such a delightful experience. So I'm sure I assume you had a wonderful chat.
Oh yeah. Jason is great. Jason surprisingly remembered me from the Google Plus days, which was like, all right, okay. All right then. Hey everybody, welcome to What You Doing podcast, where I interview amazing people about the cool stuff they're working on. I'm sitting here with Spencer Campbell. Holy shit. Spencer, say hi.
Hello everybody. I'm Spencer Campbell. You might know me as Gila RPGs. I'm an indie tabletop role-playing game designer out of Chicago. I've been doing this for about 5.5 years now. I think if you are familiar with my stuff, you probably know like Slayers or the Lumen system or my solo game Rune. I kind of just can't stop making. So I've got a lot of games, but those are probably some of my more popular games.
I can't believe you've only been doing this 5 years. Like, honestly, I'm surprised with, I was just talking with somebody about like, your breadth of work. It feels like you're always working on something. It feels like you always have something going on. And that's part of what we're here to talk about today is Dragon Slayers, your new... would reskin be inappropriate? Is it more like a 2E of Slayers? Is it?
I ask myself that same question. What's the right word? Is it hack? Is it new edition? Is it just a different coat of paint on the same car? It is definitely an evolution of the Slayer system in that there are some things that are in Dragon Slayers that aren't in the original Slayer system, but I think anybody who's familiar with the game Slayers is going to read Dragon Slayers and go, oh, okay, I know what this is. And then there will be a few more elements that they'll go, oh, I get why he added that, because this is a high fantasy game as opposed to like the kind of the serial Monster Hunter sort of vibe that Slayers was. So I don't know. It's not a definitive answer of if it's a hack or whatever, but I'll probably use a different word every single time I talk about it.
Can you even hack your own game?
Great question. It's $1 million question. Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
I've released a hack of my game. Is it? Well, it's just a new game, right? Is it? Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Maybe. Sure.
Yeah, I don't know taxonomy. I don't know how we deviate and label these things. So I've always just said it's a high fantasy tabletop role playing game using the Slayer system. And that way I don't have to say it's another edition or something like that and just kind of go from there.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, because if you say second edition, I feel like second edition or new edition is the most charged of those words, that might have people thinking like, oh, well, I gotta, get rid of this. And now like this is the version or something.
That was something that I've in a different game I've been grappling with Nova, because like the first version of Nova came out in 21, and I've been working on Nova 2, and I'm trying to distinguish it as Nova 2, not second edition, because it's not a replacement of the original Nova. This is like Empire Strikes Back, right? Like you have A New Hope, and then you have a new movie that is just more of the thing that you saw before, but it's further in the timeline. But I guess it's different than that analogy because you kind of need to have seen the first movie to get the second movie. At least with Nova 2, it's like you don't have to have played the first game. Like if this is your entry point, it's your entry point. But I have like decidedly tried to not call it Nova second edition so that people don't go like, oh, my old book is now obsolete. My old book is still totally good. It's just a different game.
Yeah, that's an interesting quandary. Because, and we'll dig into this more, I'm sure, like all of your games are very, I don't want to say setting heavy, but very setting focused. Like the game, the gameplay, the game flow all derives very strongly from the setting. And so it would make sense that like, okay, well, we want to do a new thing with the setting. We want to tell a new story. We want to advance it. We want to go and, do a new thing that it's like, okay, that is over there, and then this is over here, but you could still play this, but also play that. And in a way that, like, I can't think of another TTRPG that does that.
I think it's just because I mean, from the very beginning, my design process has been so inspired by video games, more so than anything else. Like, my TTRPG origin story is so different than everybody else. I didn't start with D&D. I started way later than everybody. So I don't have all this, like the typical like pipeline that other people followed. Instead, I played a shit ton of video games, learned about role-playing games, and said, what if I just made them kiss? Right? And so like in my first year of doing this, like my very first game was a heisting game that was based off of my obsession of putting like 500 hours into Payday 2. The video game, like the heisting video game. And then like I made a very clear serial numbers filed off Destiny clone with light. And so those games, very much like you were saying, they're like very setting focused. They're very like gameplay loop focused. Like here is the experience that you are supposed to have with this game. It's almost board game like too, because a lot of my other inspirations then come from board game design rather than tabletop role playing game design. So it is very much like, this is the setting and the experience that you're supposed to have in this box. And thus I can make a bunch of different like boxes that can be connected to each other or can kind of sit in silos by themselves, just like you can grab a board game off the shelf and just experience that on its own and then put it back. That's sort of, I think that's why I do things the way that I do. At least that's what I think right now.
Obviously, we're here to talk about Dragon Slayers. Spoiler alert, if you're listening to this and you're wondering, should I back Dragon Slayers? The answer is yes. I read the quick start. It's great. You should go do it. The link is in the description. But I do want to talk about Light because I very specifically remember Light. I remember what I was, not to be like, I was there, man, but like, I remember like seeing it go live. I remember the Polygon article. And all of this. So obviously we don't have to talk about all of that mess, but I want to talk, like you said, like the way that you came to TTRPG design, the way you approach TTRPGs, because I am also a person who has spent way too long playing Destiny. And so every time Spencer releases a new game, and I'm like, oh, cool. Another fun way to pretend to play a shooter in space. Go play Luna. But so let's talk about the Novaverse. Let's talk about your foray into TTRPGs.
Oh yeah. Well, first of all, just because you said the word Novaverse, it activated my brain because, like, literally just today, hours ago, Aaron Voigt, who is a fantastic designer and YouTube video essayist for largely RPG stuff and fiction writer, did the thing that I have always dreamed of as a human being, which was made a lore video about something I wrote. Like made a Novaverse lore video of like his fan theories for 20 minutes. And I'm just sitting there going, I mean, I'm the guy that listens to like hours long lore videos in my free time, like when I'm like cooking and doing things around the house like that. I just always have lore right into my veins. So like to have somebody do that was truly, and I mean this, like one of the coolest things that's ever happened to me. So that was very cool. So I had to just mention that because you said the code word.
Yeah.
Sleeper Agent got activated. Novaverse. Yeah, my foray into design, I didn't start playing role-playing games until grad school. So I was in a PhD program and we played board games and we would do like Magic and stuff like that. Like we were all nerdy ass nerds. Mm-hmm. No surprising. Like it's a cognitive psychology doctoral program. You're gonna get some nerds who like playing games.
If you get a PhD, you're a nerd.
Yeah,
that's
like, it's actually stamped on the diploma. But none of us played role-playing games. And none of us really had any experience with it, which was very, I don't know, strange, I guess, that a lot of us were so nerdy. Prior to that, like when I was in high school, I played a lot of war games. So like I played 40K, Warhammer Fantasy. Games Workshop had a Lord of the Rings game that they still technically have, but like it was very popular because the Lord of the Rings movies had just come out. We played a lot of that. Played like Hero Clicks, things like that. So we played war games, board games, card games, things like that, but no role-playing games. I started learning about and watching actual plays in grad school. And the only reason I started watching actual plays is because one of the earliest actual plays was called Role Play. Like that was what it was called.
Mm-hmm. I remember.
And and they had like a shit ton of different streams and some traumatic.
Shout outs to DJ Wheat and Steve Lumpkin.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And my shout out goes to Jeff Robinson, who is also known as In Control.
R.I.P. Jeff.
Yeah.
Jeff was a homie.
I was in Scotland when I got the news that he passed away, and I just wept. I wept and wept and wept. And my wife was like, "Who is this person?" I was like, "I don't know why this is affecting me so much, but this like really, really hurts to have heard this." But no, so I was a huge professional StarCraft nerd. Like I would stay up till the middle of the night watching the Korean scene. So I'd be up at like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning watching the pros play. And
Sure.
If you're not a Korean player who's a pro, you're a Waegukkin, which means foreigner. So anybody non-Korean is a foreigner. And In Control was one of my favorite foreigner players. And so when I learned that he was doing this thing, he was playing Dungeons and Dragons online, I was like, I guess I'll watch that just because I like Jeff Robinson. And so that was my wild intro to role-playing games in the first place, was through a professional StarCraft player, me just being a fan of him and him doing this as like a random other thing. So I got into it. I thought it was cool. Eventually decided to run it. Ran it, and my first games that I ran were with my brother and friends, and they are all professional improvisers out of Chicago. Like performed on the main stage in Second City. So like top tier improvisers.
So no press whatsoever.
Well, that's actually kind of the crazy thing is like I sort of went into it the first session thinking, okay, I've got to have it all planned out because that's what I thought GM prep was. And then you try and sit down with improvisers, and it's the antithesis of what they do. And so I had all this stuff planned, and it just didn't go that way because that's not the, they would yes and me, but even still, you can't predict what they're going to do.
You're like, I'm so excited for them to go to the cave, and then they spend 25 minutes talking to the shopkeeper, and you're like, guys, we got to get to the cave. Come.
Right. And everybody's had that experience. I think it's just a unique experience when you're doing it with professional improviser, and it's your first time as a GM. So that was like fundamental to like shaping in my head what playing role-playing games should be like. Of like, oh, okay, it's really going to be very loosey-goosey. Narrative control is something that we share together as a table. It's not a me sending the information to you unidirectional. It's a two-way street. And we weren't even playing D&D. We were playing a PBTA hack that I made set in the Star Wars setting, because they were all Star Wars nerds more than they were fantasy nerds. So I knew about Dungeon World, so I took Dungeon World and I changed it into Star Wars, and then I ran that. That was the first game.
This is the best. This is the funniest origin story I've ever heard.
My origins, it's very, very weird.
This is
right?
so funny.
That's sort of it. Like, so I ran that with them. It was, as you can imagine, a hilarious and just truly bonkers time. It was super fun. I got its hooks in me at that point. I then started reaching out to my friends in grad school who might be interested in that. I got a couple of friends who we kind of cycled through a couple of different things. We ended up doing like a really long Blades in the Dark campaign, did some Shadowrun, but not with the Shadowrun system, because I read it and I was like, this isn't going to work for anything. So again, like another PBTA hack of that. That's
the correct way to run Shadowrun. That's what I've been telling everybody. The right way to run Shadowrun is in anything other than Shadowrun.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was sort of, that was my intro, was learning about it very late compared to so many other people who kind of get introduced to this hobby. I didn't have the GM who I inherited information from other than watching actual plays. And then a very different, probably first table and game than a lot of people too. And I'm really thankful for that. I'm thankful that D&D wasn't my first game. And I'm thankful that my players were this very unique bunch of individuals that made me want to make games the way that I make them now.
It's such a great story, and it's a thing that I've like thought of and like spent a lot of time thinking about, like people playing D&D or TTRPGs in the modern age in the last 7 years, 8 years, where like they come to it not through D&D. Like, I feel like so much of the way a person's tastes and opinions are shaped with regard to TTRPGs in a way that doesn't really work with anything else. Like this doesn't work with video games really, and really kind of doesn't with board games, where it's not like if your first board game is Agricola, you're like, that's it. Euros. I'm an Uwe guy. I'm an Uwe guy. That's it. Oh, it's Uwe or it's nothing. And some people are like that, but it's it's an intentional choice where you're not like, well, listen, this game took me 4 hours to learn, so I'm not going to play another game. I've already learned this game. Right. But even in the more sort of modern era of getting into it through actual plays, you got into it through the funniest possible avenue in an actual play. And then just were immediately like, hey, what if 2d6 plus stat was the right way? That's so funny.
Right. What if we just did that instead? Because I remember watching because they played like 3.5 in the, like, I think that was what they played in the first role play streams. And then eventually they did a bunch of different things. But I just remember like the rules decisions on like when to roll for things and things like that just drove me nuts. And there's such a distinct memory of one time when Jeff they had like, I don't know, they had eventually like knocked out this person that they were hunting down, and Jeff was like, I'm just gonna cut their head off. classic D&D player decision. Like, yeah, okay, I'm just gonna do this. And the GM was like, all right, we'll roll to hit. And Jeff was like, what do you mean roll to hit right now? Like, what does it mean if I miss? Like, is it just a bad cut and this is actually a pretty gnarly execution, or am I literally just somehow missing a corpse? And like, I remember seeing that, and that cemented in my head going like, wow, rolling can be really bad. We need to be careful about this thing.
And that's informed all of your design since then of just like, what if we didn't roll dice?
What if we just got rid of them, actually?
That's so funny. And that's such a great example, I think, of like of a way for your mind to switch on of like design and rules intent and narrative description of like, okay, roll to hit this corpse. And it's like, wait, it's actually like very prescient of Jeff to be like, wait, what does that mean? Like, what do the numbers on this roll mean? Like,
right.
Like, what are we using this for? And that's, I think that's, he probably didn't take it, or maybe he did. He probably didn't take it as like this big design discussion. Right. He was just saying like, what do you mean I have to roll to hit a guy who is not moving?
Right. He was absolutely outraged. And I was too watching this. I was like, what do you mean? That doesn't make any sense. It was, yeah. So I had a lot of really interesting, highly impactful early moments in my time designing things. And then I said, well, again, like I was designing and then I was making these hacks and like these rules for my personal tables, but I wasn't making anything that was a unique rule system or anything like that until a little bit later. Mm-hmm. But then, yeah, eventually I was like, well, okay, I've been making these things, these little additions or, hacks or reskins. Maybe I could make something on my own. And so then I started dabbling in that, and that's how I ended up doing the game design stuff.
That's so. What was the moment that you? Because I always think that this is an interesting question. Like, what was the moment that you felt you were like, I'm a game designer? Because to be clear, for anybody listening, doing hacks, all that stuff, you're a game designer. You're designing a game, right. All of that. But I mean, I that sort of personal moment where you like sort of took that moment, and you're like, oh, hey, wow, I'm doing it.
Yeah, it was, I absolutely agree. Like I'm at the point now where I just say, if you're a GM, you're a game designer because you're doing something. Absolutely, you're doing something. But I think, I don't think I thought of myself as a game designer. Well, it's tricky because the other part of my origin story is that for years before I started doing role-playing game design, I was attempting board game and card game design with my very good friend Mike Riemann. And people might know Mike from he's done graphic design and art for a bunch of my stuff, including Slayers, like the new revamped look of Slayers, and is doing it for Dragon Slayers and Hunt and a whole bunch of stuff. And if you've ever been to one of the booth at one of the conventions, Mike is there with me. And we were board game nerds. And so we had been trying to do that for a while. And it just didn't go anywhere because board game and card game design is a nightmare. Mm-hmm. It's there, you have to make prototypes and balance actually matters. Like it super matters. And there's a whole lot that goes into it. And so I thought of myself as I thought of somebody who likes doing game design during that time. I didn't think of myself as a game designer, but I thought of I was somebody who liked designing games. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't call myself a game designer.
I'm a person who is doing game design.
But I'm not a game designer. Wouldn't take that. And so, it wasn't then until I started doing role-playing games, and it wasn't until I was like deep into playtesting my first game where I finally was like, okay, I think I am maybe a game designer. But then even then, like it wasn't until I had finished that first Kickstarter and fulfilled Score, which was my first game, and then made Corvid Court like 2 months later, that I was like, okay, now I think I might be a game designer because I've made 2 games.
2 games.
And, once is a fluke. One, anybody can do one. If I did 2, that there might be something to this. So I think it was probably the release, like the first release of Corvid Court, May of 2020, that I would have been like, yeah, okay, I've done it twice. I'm probably a game designer.
I'm what most people might refer to as a game designer.
Yeah. So that's where I ended up.
I love all the qualifications of just like maybe I am someone who is like a game designer.
Yeah, it was quite a, and at that point too, I was a professor. Like, that was my job. So like, I was a professor. That's what I was. I was a cognitive psychologist and a professor. And so like, to say that I was a game designer was not like antithetical to that, but it was just like, well, no, my job is professor, and that I game design for fun. Game designer implies that this is my job, and it's not my job, but it kind of was my job at the same time.
It's not my job. I just spend a lot of time on it and then produced a product that people gave me money for, but it's not like my job. I'm a professor.
You certainly can. Obviously.
It's funny all of the weird ways that people will like not think about the thing.
Yeah.
And not even in a negative way of like they're put, like imposter syndrome or they're putting themselves down. They just don't think about the thing until at some point they go, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I guess so.
I guess I am doing this thing.
I guess this is happening. I guess Spencer Campbell did agree to be on my podcast. Maybe this is something. Nah, it's probably nothing. Anybody can do it. Anybody can interview Spencer Campbell once.
But if you did it twice,
yeah, if you came back, then it's real.
You're an official Spencer Campbell interviewer at that point.
So let's talk about very, very, very well, very quickly in the sense of however long it's going to take. Let's talk about Light and Nova and Luna and sort of all of the. I guess it's a term now, right? Novaverse games. I know famously all of these sprung out of your love of Destiny, which is part of why I love them. I really feel like and Light. I feel like when I read Light, I was like, I get exactly what he's going for in a really fun way. What was it about Destiny or in video games that made you're playing Destiny or whatever one day, and then you look over at your shelf full of D6s and you're like, now hang on,
wait a minute. Well, like, it's a couple of different things. Like I said, I had already started by designing games inspired by video games. Like, I had already done the Payday thing, so I was like, okay, I know that video games can be an inspiring place for me as a starting point. And then it's sort of like two things that kind of made it like, first of all, there's like the impetus for why Destiny was the thing, and then ultimately why that became just sort of a genre of game or a style of game that I would create with like the Lumen system and stuff like that. Destiny in particular was just because I played a shit ton of Destiny. Like, since the alpha of Destiny 1, I remember sitting in my apartment being like, well, this is going to change things forever. And played a lot of that. And I played a lot of it with my cousin. And he also had never done any role-playing games and had no interest in it. But like, I was at one point in the middle of like a long late night gaming session, I was like, but what if I made a game that was like Destiny? Would you play that? And he was like, I don't know, maybe. And that was enough. Like, that was enough for me to go, well, okay, well, then I'll try. And so I had that kind of in the back of my head of like going, okay, so I know there's at least one person out there that if I just tried to do that, they would be interested in it. I was so early in doing this that was all it took. It just like took one thing for me to go, yeah, I'll make a whole game out of that. Like, that's worth making a game. Like, tangentially unrelated, like Corvid Court also exists because of Destiny, which is probably not what people think, because there's a thing in Destiny called the transmat effect, which is what your character look like when they spawn into like a map or anything like that. And there's all different kinds of transmat effects. And mine for the longest time has been a giant swirling storm of crows, and then you kind of appear amongst that thing. Mm-hmm. And so I saw that and I was like, what if that was a whole game? What if the whole game was that you had crow powers? And so that's literally how Corvid Court got started, is because I saw that and I was like, but what if I made a game out of that?
But what if you had crow powers? That's great.
Yeah. And then that became... And since my game prior to that was a heisting game, I said, well, then what if you had crow powers and you did crime? And that's how Corvid Court became Corvid Court.
Because you would, of course, do crime if you had crow powers.
That's the
only
next thing you can do.
Yeah, that's the natural progression. I have crow powers. Well, thus begins my life of crime.
Correct. You have chosen correctly. So I had like one person out there who had already vocalized interest in this thing, and that was kind of the video game that I typically played. I played action RPGs or looter shooters. Like I put a ton of time into Borderlands. Played a lot of Diablo. I loved games that had a do cool shit button that you got to push over and over and over again. So that was kind of like the impetus for Light, which was, okay, it's a Destiny love letter. It all fit on one page when I first created it. And it really was just, okay, how can I let the player push the do cool shit button over and over again? Well, let's just give them a small suite of powers that they can kind of use at will, and maybe they have to spend a resource to make that happen. But don't worry, they'll get the resource back, because when you kill enemies, the enemies literally like drop health and stuff from their bodies like video games, and you just get all that stuff back. And that was sort of the idea behind it. I was just trying to translate Destiny essentially, and dropping motes of light and getting health back from killing enemies and all that stuff, and Borderlands doing the same thing. And it was really fun. It was really cool to make. People seemed to like it. And then that ultimately then became the thing that helped me create the Lumen system, which was then, I kind of stepped back and said, okay, so what did I do here? Like, what is the engine that is sort of making this game work? Mm-hmm. And how can I codify that in some way? And that's what Lumen is it's you can call it an SRD. I wouldn't, probably, because you would never want to copy and paste anything from the Lumen document and paste. Like, that's what an SRD is you can copy and paste rules. You would never do that in Lumen. It's a creator kit. It's me talking to you about what a Lumen game is, and then you deciding if you want to make a Lumen game or not. But that's what Lumen is. It's power fantasy role-playing games that are designed around giving your characters a small suite of do cool shit buttons that they get to push over and over and over again. Typically in a gameplay loop, like going out on a mission, and then you come back, and then your characters get a little bit more powerful, and then you go do it again and again and again. Just like Destiny or any of those other video games.
And then after 3 months, the next time you show up to my house, you give me $15, and then we can keep playing for 3 months.
And we do it again.
Craig only gave me $5, so everyone else gets a cool gun. Craig has to wait later.
Yeah, Craig's not going to get it until 10 weeks later.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry, Craig, there's a time-gated quest, so you will get the gun at hour 3 of the session.
Yeah, exactly.
These are a bunch of silly jokes. I don't know if people are gonna get this. Oh well.
I think there's enough video game nerds out there that'll understand that stuff.
People don't know how much Destiny players have suffered for a long time.
A lot.
The answer is a lot. Do you still play?
No, I've stopped at this point. I played Final Shape, and then I was like, all right. And that was real. You had to drag me across the finish line there at that point. Like, I was like, I can't anymore. I just can't. I love the world. I love the setting. It's really interesting stuff. But while I used to love the grind of looter shooters and things like that when I was younger, when I was in grad school, and I could sit around until 3 o'clock in the morning and grind out for that perfect god roll of something. Can't really do that anymore. And so like games need to be infinitely more intentional about why I play them. And so I don't play a lot of games that require me to like check in every day or weekly to get my boxes checked and stuff like. Even though the dopamine hit from doing that still feels good, still hits just right, I just can't do it anymore. So I appreciate Destiny from afar at this point. But if Bungie ever wants to hire me to make the official Destiny TTRPG, I'll come right on back home.
That would be I'd buy that. Yeah. Gosh, when did I quit playing? Probably not long after what was the last, not Final Shape, probably in between Final Shape and the last one. Okay. I just hit a point where I was just like, what if I stopped? Yeah. And then I did, and I was like, oh, cool. And Final Shape came out, and a lot of people were excited for Final Shape, and I was like, okay, I think I'm okay.
Yeah.
I thought about it, and
like I said, like I'm such a lore person to the point where I was like, I just have to know how it ends. I have to know. I simply must know, even if I have to again go kicking and screaming across the finish line. I will see how this ends.
I really feel for Bungie's team in a certain way of like, okay, the Final Shape, here it is, the ending, and then it's like, okay, here's the new season, and you know, right. it's gotta feel like after Infinity War came out, where it's like, okay, we're done, and everybody's like, yeah, that's it, it's over, and then it's like, okay, so the new movie,
right, and here's the next phase. You're like, oh my god,
and you're like, what do you mean? What do you mean? We were done. We had an ending. It was a whole thing. It was great.
You called it the Final Shape.
Okay, but this isn't a shape. This is a I gotta ask, did you see the marathon stuff?
Oh,
did you see the marathon news yesterday?
What a nightmare. What an absolute nightmare. I mean, I never played the like original marathon games or anything like that. I remember when the first like the trailer got released a couple years ago. That was all vibes. I was like, all right, put this into my veins. This is great.
Yeah, more awesome. Of this. More of this.
And then I learned it was an extraction shooter, and I was like, oh, okay, so I'm not going to do that, especially since it required you to play with people. Like, you can play solo, but with randoms. I was like, so this is not at all for me. I will never in a million years play this game. And then all the controversy, like the art theft, and just in general, how like abysmal the reception of the alpha was. It's just... Bungie's in a not great spot right now.
No, and I say this all the time. Like I love people that work at Bungie. You know, I know people who used to work at Bungie and people who work at Bungie, and it's very much that like dichotomy problem of like, I support the people who work at Bungie.
Right.
Bungie as a company, I don't know, gang.
Yeah, that's a little different. That's a harder thing for me to get behind. So yeah, but I know that eventually, I mean, all the marathon stuff, like I said, I'm not going to play the game unless they suddenly decide they're going to do like a solo queue thing and the game is free to play. Those are the only ways that I'm going to like solo queue where everybody is solo, not solo queue where I solo queue and then you're a stack team of three.
Just you versus 3 teams, just like lock in. Let's go.
Like my introduction to like even the concept of extraction shooters was actually from The Division, because they had like the dark zones that you could go into.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way. That is actually very extraction shootery.
Right. And like you won't lose your stuff that you can use outside the dark zone, but like getting the cool dark zone tech, if you get killed, you drop it and things like that. So it's like not as high stakes. And I enjoyed that, but it was also kind of similar where like I played The Division by myself. And so if I ran into anybody out there who had one other person that they were squatted up with, I was like, all right, well, I'm dead.
Yeah, you got me.
Sort of
All right.
Right. It's like I could be the best player, and I'm not, and I'm just gonna lose this fight. So, so I enjoyed like the concept when I did it in the division, but I ran into that griefing problem right away, and so I was like, okay, so if this is just it, then I remember my days in the dark zone, and no, thank you.
Yeah, my buddy and I played a lot of Division, and then Division 2 came out, and we played a good amount of Division 2, and then COVID hit, and then both of us felt very differently about the Division 2.
It's a very different vibe post COVID.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Just like, okay. And not their fault.
Right.
Couldn't have predicted that, but
right.
Oh, it's a thing I think about a lot. Like I'll see somebody playing it, or I'll see an ad for it or something, and I'll go, all right, good for you. You're still, still making it, still getting paid. Good for you.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about Luna more. I just love Luna. I feel like do you feel this way? I feel like every designer has that one game that you love that just didn't hit for whatever reason. And I feel like Luna is that game. And maybe that's me projecting. I love Luna. I love the concept of Luna. I love like the gameplay loop of it. It's like it's good. I'm sorry, I keep cutting you off.
You say that. I'm very happy to hear you say that.
You came out with it, and I bought it day one, and I read it almost instantly, and I was like, yeah, this is hot. This is good. This is gonna be great. And then I was like, hello, anybody?
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's what I like you said, I'm sure every designer has that thing where they're like, I don't know why more people aren't talking about this, or like I feel like people would like this if they knew that this existed, sort of thing. And Luna is definitely like high up on that list for me, just because I think the vibes are very cool. I think Mike did a great job with the layout and the graphic design. I think the idea of being weird moon cultists slowly trying to corrupt and like take down a city, like a few shot campaign, like it's very intentionally designed to be played in like 1 to 5 sessions. Like I feel like that's a thing that a lot of people like, and it just, like every, like most games just doesn't get the audience or the traction that you would hope for it. And yeah, Luna is that. I was lucky that I got to play Luna very kind of somewhat recently with some friends, and that was just a very nice experience. It was sort of like I got to play instead of run, which was even better, where I got to play it and I got to go, oh, okay, this is a good game. And I played it with friends. And so I feel better about it now, knowing that I've at least played it with some friends and they liked it a lot.
Do you feel like a pressure to run your games in those scenarios where you're like, I have to be the one to run it because I'm the one who wrote it?
Not necessarily. I typically will be I just like GMing more than like feeling like I have to do it. I've just always enjoyed doing it. And so when the opportunity is there, I usually take it. But this was a group that we had just played a mini arc of Spire and really loved that. And Luna uses the resistance system. So it uses Spire system, but it's a sort of a trimmed down, simplified version of it. And so we said, okay, well, we just did something with this system. Do you want to try something that's in a very similar mechanically space, thematically kind of similar, but obviously different, different in many different ways. And all of those people liked Nova already. So it was an easy sell to be like, we know mechanically generally how this is going to work, and you all know this setting. So do we want to just basically just do this again? And so we just kind of kept our roles where Aaron was just the GM again. And I was like, great, I will continue to be a player.
I like that. I feel like I never hear about game designers getting to play their stuff. And that's a bummer. That feels like it feels like a difficult tightrope to walk, because you're like, yeah, I made this thing, and so I want to present it. I feel like every game designer I've talked to has been like, no, like I like running, which makes sense. But also it's like, yeah, I made it. You do it. Like I made it. I made it for you to run. Let me enjoy it. I did the work.
Yeah. I can also see like a hesitancy from other people to want to run a game that a designer made for that designer.
Oh, for sure.
Like, okay, here's I'm gonna try and run your game. Hopefully, I do it right. And I obviously most designers won't care how you run it. It's just the fact that you ran it is awesome. But like, I can imagine there would be some sort of like nervousness or a little bit of anxiety that goes into like, oh shit, I have to run. Like if I had to run Spire for Grant Howitt, I would be pissing myself for weeks beforehand because I'd be like, well shit, I really look up to Grant and I hope I do a good job with this.
That's when you just tell him there's a height. This is a hack.
To me in some way. Yeah. But like I could imagine some scenario where it'd be like, oh shit, I have to kind of like demonstrate that I understand this person's game enough to run it to them.
Well, then you just twist it, and then anytime you have a rules question, you're like, Grant, how did this work? Right? Okay, cool.
How does this work again? Yeah.
You wrote this. You should know. What's the rule for this? And he's like, I don't.
And that's the secret is we never know. We never know.
Grant, what page is it on? And he's like, wait, why would I have memorized the page numbers? What do you mean? Well, you wrote the book.
I don't even know what rule you're talking about most of the time. When you're like, Spencer, how does this thing work in Nova again? I'm like, I don't know. I wrote that 5 years ago. And it's somewhere in my head, but just make a call. Let's move forward, sort of thing.
I get that a lot. I call that streamer brain, where like someone will be like, oh yeah, Matt, this thing. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And you're like, 30 minutes ago, we were talking about this and you had a question and it's like, oh, okay, cool. Okay. Cool. Good. So. Yeah. I'm going to trust you on this one. I will believe you. That sounds like a thing I would have asked. So, okay, we'll go forward. So, it's been almost an hour. So let's talk about Dragon Slayers.
Hell yeah.
It sounds like a good idea. Like I mentioned, I read the Dragon Slayers quick start before we got started. It's really, it's really fucking good. That's right to the audience. Listen, it's really fucking good. Spencer can't hear me right now. It's really good. Don't say no, you ruin the illusion. Oh no,
I'm talking to somebody else in the room. I just happened to be answering a question that my wife asked me.
So Dragon Slayers is a air quotes hack, whatever, of Slayers. What was kind of the way you always got to ask, like, what was the impetus behind Dragon Slayers? What was the idea of saying, because I love that you opened with this, what was the impetus behind a game that you're like, this is my D&D killer?
Yeah. I decided, well, like I used to pitch Slayers as a D&D killer at first, where I was like, listen, it's a fantasy-like game and you're hunting and fighting monsters. Like that's what you want D&D players. So it's a dragon game killer. But it's obviously not, and it's very different in many, many different ways. And I don't know why. Like I just got it, like the brain, like this is just a way that I design, and I know a lot of folks do it this way, where like it just happens in bursts. Like there's just moments where it's like, I will now for the next 48 hours obsess over this and write it, and I'll write a lot of it in the next 48 hours. And that sort of just happened last fall. I was sitting in my favorite cafe, and for one reason or another, I thought, well, what would it actually look like to make a proper high fantasy version of the Slayer system, rather than like kind of the weird urban fantasy or almost like Industrial Revolution era fantasy of Slayers. Like, what would it look like if it was just like all the fantasy trappings that you would expect from the Dragon game? And I just started like coming up with how to make the classes. Like they just kind of hit me really, really fast. And so I was like, okay, I wrote a lot of these classes. I should probably just make this game at this point, rather than like trying to to release these as like optional Slayers classes and say, hey, Slayers fans, do you want to add a little high fantasy vibe to your game and bring a cleric in or bring in a bard? Here's your Slayers class. I thought, okay, like let's do it. Let's make the actual off-ramp for D&D players that says, you love all of these high fantasy trappings. You like all of this stuff. You like fighting monsters. You like having bards and barbarians and elves and magic items and all that shit. So let's keep all of that, but let's do an indie RPG rule system underneath that'll show you kind of what that direction can take you in a very with a very comfortable high fantasy blanket wrapped around you the whole time.
The very familiar D&D blanket, but also...
Yeah, right? But underneath it, it's filled with all those indie vibes that are actually getting on your skin and making you go like, ooh, I think I like any die other than the D20. And so the name Dragon Slayers, it has multiple meanings then, because like it's a Slayers game, so let's just make it Dragon Slayer so that it sounds overtly high fantasy. But then it's also my dragon killer, like dragon game killer. Like it's my attempt to try to kill D&D, and so Dragon Slayers has layers to it as a name. So yeah, it really did just kind of come from a desire to just see what it would look like to make high fantasy classes, and then realizing, okay, it would be an unsatisfying experience to move this into Slayers. But I think there are things that you would just kind of want in a high fantasy game that just don't exist in Slayers. And so let's take that as a foundation to build upon, and then find ways to add these things that I think people might like or expect in a high fantasy game. And this is kind of happening alongside while I'm making what I consider my ideal fantasy RPG, which has no dice and no health for enemies. Like everything dies in one hit, and it's all vibes and creativity. So it's me kind of going, okay, if I wanted to roll dice in any game, I would want to do it the way that Slayers does it. And so let's make the fantasy game that has dice. Let's do it with the Slayers approach. And I'll be honest with you, like I really was just kind of making this as the off-ramp for D&D people. Like, they'll like this. And I've actually kind of fallen in love with this game. Like, I've played a really, really fun, like pretty long playtest campaign with some people, and like it was great, and it was really, really fun. And so now I think this might be my ideal fantasy game now, which is kind of cool that it was really just kind of let's just make the D&D off-ramp into like, no, actually, I think if I apply these Slayers design philosophies to the high fantasy setting, we can make a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, and for me, especially, reading through it, I'm a big Pathfinder fan. I've been playing Pathfinder for years and years and years and years. And I've always felt like I wanted a game that was like, that had that sort of build itch, that had the little knobs to twist, the little things. And no game has ever like really delivered that. And a thing in Dragon Slayers is very fun. Having I'm not going to talk about it too much because there's a free quick start. Go read the free quick start. Having quick actions and having specific actions, and then the different the classes in Dragon Slayers are asymmetrical, which was one of those things that I read and then I just had to sit for a second and think about and go, well, now what the hell does this mean? Listen, go read the quick start. I'm just gonna fall over myself telling everybody go engage with it. Like as a great example, right? So the barbarian has 2 dice for their pool that they roll. Very funny that there's no D20. I really love that at the beginning it says you need a full set of polyhedral dice, and then you're like, but not the D20, not that one actually. Don't. He's not invited to this party. And as you hit on a 4+, which I think is genius. I love the idea of a universal like metric. Just you have to hit this number. Doesn't matter what you're doing. This is what you need. So much like rules ink. Just like 4+. So the barbarian starts with 2 dice, and through advancements you can add multiple dice, which means the barbarian is hitting multiple times. The barbarian also has a class ability where anytime you take a harm, you add another die, or you can step up a dice. So you're rolling bigger dice. So you're definitely hitting more 4s. You're rolling more dice. So you're hitting more 4. And as I said in my friend's Discord, Let me find. The Bard is playing fucking Yahtzee, which is hilarious.
Yep.
I just don't know what to do about this game other than yell at everyone about it. It's just
the asymmetry thing was pretty important for me. Like as a design thing, like it was there in Slayers, and it comes again from my board game experience. Like one of my favorite board games of all time is called Root, which it's Leader Games. They make asymmetrical games. Like that's what they do. And the whole concept of Root is that
that's your next game. Spoilers.
Yeah. Is that you have this map, and it's a game of woodland factions battling out for supremacy of this world, this little forest domain. But each faction plays so unbelievably different from one another, but you're all playing the same board game, and you win by getting victory points, and everybody has their own way of getting victory points. So like if you like those Euros that we talked about earlier, you like that engine building and things like that, like there's a faction that you play that is that. And then if you don't want to deal with all that complicated stuff, you just want to be one thing, you can play the Vagabond and just be a raccoon that runs around stealing trash. And like those two people are playing the same game at the same table as one another. And they get to play together. And what's cool about that is one of those is way more complicated than the other. So now you allow two people who have very different like preferences for game complexity or cognitive load to sit down and have the same experience. They can play the same game, as opposed to most games where this is how complex the game is. Are we in for a game that is this heavy or not? And so like that's what it was for Slayers then was, okay, so every class will have their own thing that they do, their own unique toolkit. And as long as they all just need to hit a 4+, it doesn't matter how many dice or what size dice they are rolling, it's going to work. And it lets people with different preferences play the game or play the class that fits the play style that they prefer. So like you mentioned, like if you like Yahtzee, then you should play the Bard, because like that's the whole thing is playing Yahtzee. There's one class, the Cleric. I don't think the Cleric's in the Quick Start. They don't have any dice rolling. So like that's the lightest complexity like lift class is like if you don't want to have to worry about rolling at all inside combat, you don't have to roll outside. But like inside combat, if you just want to be the person like handing dice to people, giving little buffs and things like that, you could be the Cleric and you don't have to worry about rolling. You're just the dice fairy handing things and handing good dice and bad dice to people all day long. And then like every class has that. Like the wizard is definitely more complex because they're weaving together spells based off of different combinations of dice and things like that. So it's important for me because when I play a board game with people, like I said, you all have to agree, like how heavy of a lift do we want right now? Like, is it like we're going to sit down and play Scythe Night, or is it we just want to kind of like play something like really lightly. Let's grab some oink games and just like rattle through those sort of thing. And that's a even bigger problem with role-playing games because most of the time you're not signing on for just one session. You're signing on for like a long campaign, and you all need to be on board with the rules of that campaign and be okay with it. And if you have one person in the group who likes the fiddly builds that you're kind of talking about, and then another person who's like, I just like vibes, man. Like, I just want to, like, how are you supposed to get them together to play the same game? Well, you do it by doing something incredibly asymmetrical, which is sort of the design philosophy behind that, is so that I could bring my friends who have totally different preferences to the same table and play the same game with them.
Coming from like a more board game focused experience, what do you think is that big barrier to TTRPGs versus board games? I feel like board games have had like a huge surge in popularity over the last few years, where TTRPGs have, but not really in the same scope. You know, I feel like board games are massive, 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 and TTRPGs are like, oh, we're also here.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of different things. Like, part of it is like theme, right? So there are obviously a billion different themes and genres covered by RPGs, and there have been for a long time. But because there's one big monster RPG that like soaks up all of the light in the room. Like, if you're being introduced to a medium and everybody says, and this is the game, then if you don't like that thing, if you don't like fantasy or monster fighting and stuff like that, you're gonna go, okay, well, this thing is just not for me, right? Like, if there was just like one movie that like 95% of people watched and you didn't like it, it was like a horror movie and you're like me and you're a big baby, I'd be like, I guess I just don't like movie because I don't like this. And I'm just going to miss the fact that there's a billion other things outside of that. I think it's also just like, I mean, it's an onboarding thing. Like, you get onboarded into the idea of board games and card games very early on because there are board games and card games that are designed for children. And so you learn about these things so early. And so you could just be like, okay, we played Uno for a long time and maybe we want something with a little bit more chew. Well, guess what? There's 1,000 different options for you to choose. When you get tired of that, there's another 1,000 different things that let you kind of go up the rung or move in a different direction or a different, totally different style of game. So like, part of it is just exposure. Like, for me, I was not exposed to role-playing games until grad school, which is, I think, atypical for most people who are exposed to role-playing games. Like, they get it early on, but if you got it early on, what did you get? D&D, which goes back to my first point. So, I think it's just the fact that board games have been around long enough to have created this long tail, like this clear path of progression that you can take from like introduction to getting more and more into it. And it has those, quintessential, you've leapt from like playing the same games that everybody's played to like, oh, now you've played Catan. Now you've gone into the hobby space, right? And like, role-playing games don't have that necessarily, where it's like you've played the equivalent of Monopoly your whole life, and now you played the Catan that exploded your mind. I guess probably that's like most PBTA games, I think, is probably what I would say is like the Catan equivalent, where you go, oh, it can be so different. While Catan might be a popular game, how popular is it compared to Monopoly? It's not.
There's not branded versions of Catan everywhere.
Right, and exactly. So, I think that's largely it, is that it's just we have a clear path of progression for people to get exposed to board games and card games at an early point. And then because there's a singular dominant force in this particular hobby, if you are not interested in the themes or complexity of that thing, then you're going to go, I guess this entire hobby isn't for me.
And it's similar in war games as well. From what I've seen, it's a very similar thing. Like, well, do you want to? It comes in two flavors, fantasy or space, and you're like, well, I kind of don't want either of those. And it's like, well, oh well.
And then again, even like adding that complexity level where like, it's going to be like 40K. And if you play 40K, it's complex to a certain degree. Like, there are simpler war games out there where you don't have to have a huge 2,000 point army and all of that stuff. But the oxygen in the room of that space gets sucked up by Games Workshop, because Games Workshop shows up and says, these are the 3 ways that you'll play role-playing games, and that's it. Or not role-playing, war games, and that's it. That's very analogous to what we experience here with role-playing games.
I feel like a lot of people who are into indie TTRPGs have had that moment where, like, there's somebody like that's just like, yeah, I just don't like TTRPGs, and you're like, no, you just don't like D&D. Please listen. just like trying to grab them on the street, like you're crazed. Like, please. Just
I
listen.
promise you, it's not only that, right?
We
like
have clocks.
You have to go to them and be like, do you know that there's more board games than Monopoly? You do. Monopoly might be like the biggest, most popular one, but you know that there are other ones. I promise you, it's the same exact thing over here. You just have to, kind of have to just turn your head a little bit to see around it.
It's weird how they only let us make the one TTRPG. Like, they made it and we're like, oh, we're done. We did it. We're great. That's it. Wrap it up.
They made one novel and they said we did it. Stories are good.
We wrote Charles Dickens. He wrote. I can't think of a Dickens novel now.
Oliver Twist.
That's it. That's what I was trying to think of. He wrote Oliver Twist, and they went, "That's great. No more books. We did it.
We've
Crushed
accomplished storytelling."
So this is a good segue. That was unintentional. Speaking of board games and war games, you talk a lot about you're very open with like your thoughts on design and like and not so much the ideas of the space, but like how you fit in the space, what you think about the space, how you move through the space in a way that I think is really interesting to see as a not designer. I think it's a really big peek behind the curtain of just like, yeah, who knows what's going on. But you've talked a lot about like designing board games, card games, things that aren't TTRPGs. And I remember, I mean, it was a while ago now, but not that long ago, you had a post where you were like, yeah, I think you said in a Rascal interview or something like that. You were like, I'm gonna design like maybe 4 or 5 more games and then I'm done. And I that was very interesting to read. I was, I guess first, like what I guess now knowing that you were working on board games, card games before, it makes a ton of sense. You know, what does a Gila RPG's board game, card game look like? Like what is you already don't have dice. You make a board game, you got to put dice back in.
So that's an interesting thing, right? Like, do I have to put the dice back in? So I have 2 games that I'm actively in development on right now that are not role-playing games. And one's a card game and one is a tactical kind of war game, small-scale war game, or skirmish game. And card game obviously has randomization because it's cards, so I can't get rid of randomization there, but that's good. It's good to have it there. It makes sense. And it's very, very simple. It was actually, I designed this game fucking forever ago. And then I've just I put a different coat of paint on it and put it into the Novaverse so that I have something that I can kind of be like, if you like Nova and you want to experience Nova in a non-RPG way, play the card game. But like you choose one of the like factions of the Dusk and you're just trying to be the most powerful faction and you're just playing like little minions and cool powers in front of you. It's very fast. It's not a deck builder, like there's no deck building involved, because while I love games like Netrunner and Magic and stuff like that, like I actually hate making decks. I don't like doing that at all. So it's like, totally, here's just this pre-made deck. It is supposed to be like a beer and pretzels sort of game. Like that's the reason it's that way is because that's the kind of game I play these days. Like I just don't play big games anymore. My time is not, I just don't have time to do that. And the people that I play with don't want to play those games anymore. Even if we used to, we don't like playing them anymore. We would rather play more shorter, simpler games than one big long game when we get together to play things. So it's very much hey, we could probably play like 2 or 3 rounds of this in 30 minutes and have had a pretty cool experience. So that one's in pretty far developed. I'm going to bring decks to Gen Con and like try and run some like playtest / I don't know, like a tournament. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and run it. The other thing is also then set in the Nova setting. It's a tactics game where you build a little squad of 3 sparks and you duke it out with another player on this hex grid that has like terrain and really simple mechanics for just getting victory points. It's like I said, I played 40K a lot growing up, and I more recently have been playing Kill Team, which is their small squads version of it, with my good friend Logan Dean, who lives in Chicago as well. And Kill Team is fun. It's nice playing with a small squad instead of like 2,000 points of characters, but it's still complex. Like they just reduced the number of minis you have. They didn't reduce like the complexity of the game. And so I wanted like a small scale war game that is actually something that, again, we could probably play a couple of rounds in like an hour and have had a good experience. And so that game is a war game that doesn't have dice as like the core mechanic. Like your characters just have at will abilities. It's very Lumen like that they can do. But you have a big pool of dice that you can pick up and roll to like get enhanced version of those powers. But once those dice are spent, you don't really get them back. So it's like across 5 rounds of play, when are you going to decide to pick those dice up, or when are you going to just take like the guaranteed outcome of your abilities? And it's been fun. Like I've been playtesting that one actively for a couple months, and people seem to like it. It's fun for me. But yeah, just to kind of go back to your question of like, what does a Gila version of those look like? It looks like a small, simple version of those things. Like, how can I take the board game and card game experiences and war game experiences that I love and turn them into something that I could conceivably play multiple times in an hour and like teach pretty easily and just like be playing the game right away, or even just like we're just going to learn while we play it sort of thing, as opposed to it's a big teach and that's going to take up an hour of our time, and then how much time do we have left? So simple is sort of the answer there.
Yeah, what you said about card games is what a lot of people that I know that still play those card games like are feeling. Like, I have a friend who loves Yu-Gi-Oh, but just has like an Edison draft set, and like that's it. And you know, a bunch of my friends have like Magic Cube draft sets, and that's it. They don't keep up with modern stuff. And I think it's for exactly what you said. Like, unless you're about that life where you want, you know, the cool deck, and you're going out and playing against people that have their cool deck, you know, you don't really want to be bothered to keep up with that. You want to play the game. You want to put the cards down, do the thing, haha, and you know, cool, we did it. Let's play it again.
Right, exactly. I just want to be able to play the game again and again, so that when you win or I win or whoever wins, we can go, oh, I'll get you next time. And then the next time can be right now.
The next time is right now. Let's go.
Right.
Yeah. It's why, like, I feel like so many RPG players, so many like designers love Netrunner. Like, they love Netrunner from a design perspective and a like an artistic perspective, like a narrative perspective. You know, it has a very rich world. It comes through in the mechanics and all of this. But it's also like, do you want to play Netrunner? It's like, oh, you just look at a box of cards, you're like,
Yeah, unless you're going to hand me a deck, it's going to be really hard for me to play. I have decks, and I've just stopped making any new ones. Like, because Logan and I play that too. And so it's like, okay, I have my small handful of runners and my handful of corp decks, and it's like, that's it. I have all the cards, and I'm not going to sort through them and make new things. I'm just, whatever I have is what I have, and that's fine with me at this point.
They should sell precon decks.
Yeah,
just build it, nice little precon deck, and then just like, okay, you can just buy that. Don't worry about it.
Right, and like that's why we just played Commander. I'd never played Commander before. We played Commander, and I just bought a pre-made Commander deck. And I was like, great, I don't have to think about it. It's just, here's my 100 cards, and I'm gonna play. And like, I like Marvel Champions. It's right there behind me. And Marvel Champions, you can just buy the deck of the hero that you want to be. Like, ooh, I want to play as Gambit. Here's the pre-made Gambit deck. Is it the best deck? No, you could probably tool it out and do the deck building rules and make it even better. But I don't want to do that. I'll just use the pre-existing Gambit deck that you gave me, and I'll pretend that I'm Gambit for an hour.
What you do is you do what my friend did, which is you give him the decks that you want to play. He adds it to his set, and he does all of the deck building. And then when you come over, you're like, oh, let me play his Gambit, and he gives you the super tooled out Gambit deck because he loves doing all the little deck building.
There we go. We just all need to have that friend.
Yeah, that's an essential friend. That's, you know,
it's a good friend to have.
It's a good friend to have. Everyone, as a card game sicko, everyone needs a card game sicko friend.
That's true. That's true.
You know, it's an essential part of every friend group.
Or it will have to be you. If you don't find that friend, you're gonna have to be that friend. So
look around your group. Do you see a card game sicko? It might be you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. We already talked about Dragon Slayers. I want to talk about Dragon Slayers more. It's fine, and I can. It's my podcast, damn it.
You're allowed.
So Dragon Slayers, I think I mentioned it before, but I'll mention it again. I think it's bold as hell to say this is my D&D killer. I think calling the shot is fantastic. And I think more people should talk shit about D&D in the opening pages of their games. I think you should just feel free to put whatever you want on those first couple pages. Have a ball with it.
Right.
You know? Just talk about, well, okay, listen, we're not going to get into it. What is it, in the quick start, you mention, having rules for the thing that I always get geeked out about, because I like rules and numbers and things. You mentioned having conversion rules for Dragon Slayers from D&D and vice versa, and between other systems. The example monsters that you have in the quick start are really cool. I think the spider's a fantastic example of like, here's what a weird monster looks like. Here's how you give it powers in this space. How much effort goes into that sort of design, that sort of transcription of like, here's how we take these rules, here's how we take these ideas and put them into this system.
I will say like some effort, not a lot of effort, because while I want folks who are D&D people to have comfortable off ramps into Dragon Slayers by being able to convert stuff from what they're used to, I also don't want them to be like stuck in the stuff that they had before as well. So like in terms of like being able to convert things, like there's rules and guidance on how to do it, but it's really actually more like guidance. It's not rules, because there's no way that I can give like proper, like, here's the arithmetic for coming up with the health for converting a D&D monster stat block to a Slayer stat block and things like that. But there's guidance in it in the GM section about how you can start to make those conversions. But I ultimately want people to realize that they can kind of just make this stuff on their own, and they don't need to be kind of stuck in the stuff they had made previously or that they had bought previously or things like that. And they can just be free of it. Like I kind of want you to just be free of it. And so while it's nice to have the advice, and I think it's important to have some advice in the book about, okay, you have this stuff, so if you want to use it, like, how might you consider bringing it over? I do largely want it to be D&D's not in the room with you anymore. You're free. You're safe now. So like, let's just be in this game now and in this space, and then you can kind of see if this is good for you or not. And if it is, great. We don't have to open that door ever again. You can just be here instead. So like, there's
break someone of the toxic relationship they're in.
Right.
D&D can't hurt you anymore.
Right. I kind of just need to take you away from them. And so it's, there's some intentionality behind the advice on converting stuff and stuff like that. But for the most part, I'm trying to highlight the differences with the thing that is unique or special about this Slayer system, so that you can go, oh, I like this. And I'm not thinking about this in terms of how it works with the thing that I'm familiar with. It's more just, I like this thing now. And it has the shiny fantasy trappings that just makes it more comfortable for me to try this.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a very difficult battle that you're trying to face here of you don't want to just say, take your D&D books and run your D&D stuff with this. It's like, no, let's break away. Let's move away completely. The question I always have with stuff like this, because I'm always interested when there is a game that is sort of, I guess, referential to another game, of like, oh, it's like in the OSR movement, right? Where it's like, oh, it's like this, but it's cleaned up or whatever. What is your feeling if someone was like, I'm going to take Keep on the Borderlands and I'm going to convert it into Dragon Slayers. Here's the Dragon Slayers Keep on the Borderlands document. What, because I'm always curious, what are designers' feelings on stuff like that? Because third party stuff, I imagine people are cool with third-party stuff almost as a rule, because most people aren't jerks. But I always wonder, like, you know, like you even said, like, you know, you want people to break away from that. Like, would you be like, that's cool, even if at the same time you're like, that's not really what I wanted?
Yeah, I mean, I would have no problem with that. That would be, you know, if that's ultimately the thing that helps that person like get Dragon Slayers, where they go, okay, I have this really comfortable adventure or this setting module that I really, really like. And if I just kind of reframe it into Dragon Slayers and I kind of get it, like, oh, awesome. Like, more power to that person. Go for it. Absolutely. My hope is that ultimately people go, oh, rather than putting in all the effort to convert this thing, I could probably take the same or possibly even less effort to just make my own thing instead. Because I did like a Slayers jam and I made a Slayers creator kit for that, and like the floodgates opened. People came up with way cooler classes than I ever could, and it wasn't them porting over, okay, here's this thing from D&D and bringing it over. It's like, what if I made this random thing? And then, like, people were far more creative when they thought they released themselves from the trappings of D&D. And so, you know, again, if people want to make a Keep on the Borderlands thing and Dragon Slayers, go for it. You know, that's cool for you. I probably won't play it, but go for it. But I hope that instead, this is an opportunity for you to see you can make something wholly your own with probably a relatively equal amount of effort that I think you probably will have more fun hanging your hat on than saying, I took somebody else's thing and then framed it in somebody else's thing.
When you phrase it that way, it sounds terrible. I get it, but it's like, wow, yeah, damn.
And you know, that's the totally fine, a legitimate thing for folks to do. But like I said at the beginning, GMs are game designers, and I think when you start to like allow yourself to just really be the designer and start to, you know, break yourself away from maybe the things that you're most familiar with or comfortable with, you're going to realize that you can make some really cool shit. And I want more people to realize that they can make some really cool shit.
That's a great goal. I love it. Dragon, the highest praise I can give for Dragon Slayers, because it was the same when I read Nova and Light for the first time. The highest praise I can give something is when I'm reading it, when I immediately start thinking about ways that I can like add stuff to it. Of like reading through Dragon Slayers, looking at the advances and stuff. I was immediately like, ooh, what about this? What if this? What about, I wonder how this would work. And, you know, or reading through the classes and then going, I wonder how this works. And then reading the powers and saying, oh, I see. Okay. And then, so, you know, oh, what if we did this? And what if we did, because it's always fun when, you know, I read a game, and I hope this is, you know, the case for most people. You just immediately get excited about the mechanics and get immediately excited to play it and try to do it and get it to the table and see how it works and see how it plays. Or maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm weird. I don't know. It's not impossible.
That's great. I love it when somebody's desire to interact with the game is through tinkering. I think that's very, very cool. Like, I think that is a unique thing about our hobby, is that we are able to do that so easily with one another's work, as opposed to board games where it's very hard to make like a tinkered version of another board game. Like, you can house rule it within your own house and stuff like that, and that's cool. But like, it's hard to like then go produce that in a way that other people can play. But like in our space, you can make like a cool little pamphlet supplement zine to somebody's game and be like, hey, I really liked Into the Odd, and I came up with this fun little mini game for Into the Odd, and here it is, and everybody else can have it. Like, that's cool stuff. I like tinkering, and I that's how I got started with things. So when somebody says that they want to mess with my games, I go, awesome. Then I've done the thing, right? Like, the reason I'm doing what I'm doing is because other people made games that could be tinkered with, and they encourage tinkering. So if I am doing that same thing, then I am doing it right, in my head at least.
Oh no, I get that. Yeah. I feel like that is it comes up a lot where I'm like, I know like I'm not an artistically creative person. You know, it's you know, the ways, especially doing this, you know, and talking to TTRPG designers and musicians and, you know, talking to Ryan as an illustrator and stuff where I'm just like, oh, like I just don't have that thing. You know what I mean? And it comes out other ways. But I feel like that is such a shared idea amongst people who create, is the act of creation is itself a source of inspiration, of the idea of like, I made a thing because I wanted to make a thing, but also part of making that thing is the hope that someone else also then wants to make a thing. And this sort of like chain.
Yeah, the jam culture is so cool. Like that's one of my favorite things about this space. It's just like, hey, do you want to make a game on, or do you want to make a thing based off of this game or this vibe or this whatever? Like, here you go make a fun thing and like do it, and it's gonna be cool. Whatever you make is gonna be rad and cool, and you should do it.
Yeah, what's your idea? It doesn't matter. Do it.
Doesn't matter. You should do it, and don't worry about layout. Just do it in a Google Doc and then export it, and it'll be fine.
It'll probably be fine. It'll definitely be fine. It's fine. Just export it as a PDF so the layout doesn't get weird. You're good.
Yeah,
it's easy.
My, Corvid Court was written in a 48-hour fever dream, and I just wrote it directly into Affinity in the layout, and no editing, no. And I just it was truly just black text on a white background with some random like black silhouette bird stock art that I had managed to grab, and was like, all right, this is it. This is the game. And I yelled about crows and crime enough that people are like, I also like crows and crime. And they found the game. So it works.
Hang on. Let me listen to, hang on. Crows? Okay. I'm interested. You got me. Crime. Wait a minute. Together?
At the same time.
Hang on.
You got crows in my crime. You got crimes in my crows.
Let me listen to what this guy's on about. That comes back to a thing that's come up a bunch on the podcast, and it's an interesting idea because it's I feel like it's a uniquely TTRPG thing. And we talked about it a bit at the beginning when you mentioned Nova and then Nova 2, where like Nova 2, not a second edition, not an evolution, not a new thing, or not a branch, but like a new wholly separate thing. Is this idea with TTRPGs that like you can make the TTRPG and you can put it out there and it'll be there, but then there's nothing stopping you from saying like, I'm gonna take another run at that, I'm gonna take another crack at that, and either say like, oh, I'm gonna clean it up and it's the same thing and it's just nicer, or yeah, this is a whole. I redesigned a bunch of rules. We've done all of this new stuff, and I think that's such an interesting thing because you don't really get to do that for other mediums in ways that don't feel awkward sometimes. Yeah. like you could remaster a video game. It's just gonna take a long time to do and a lot of money. I love the like revamp, remaster, whatever you want to call it for like stuff that happens in RPGs. Snow, who created Dot Dungeon and Songbirds and things like that. Like they've made, I think Songbirds is on its 3rd edition at this point, and Dot Dungeon is on its possibly 3rd iteration as well. I think technically Songbirds is getting what might be a 4th, because Snow said she's going to put the different versions for 3rd together with some new stuff.
Right.
If you didn't listen to my episode with Snow, go do that.
Oh my god, I love Snow. Like, amazing. And I remember reading Dot Dungeon the first time and thinking, this is really cool. I like this a lot. And then the 2nd edition, like the remastered version of it essentially came out. And I got that. And I was on vacation with my wife, and we were waiting for a train, and it was super delayed by like an hour. And I just happened to have it in my backpack. So I was like, I guess I'm just going to read this now. And I remember reading it and getting like mad with how good it was. Like, I was like, this is really, really good. And I'm glad that there was a return to this, right? Like, not to say that the first version wasn't good, but how cool is it to see what a return to this game looks like after you've spent some time away from it? Almost certainly, and like most of us, like if you've released a game years ago, you've probably changed as like a human being, first of all, but also as a designer and all these other things. And you think about it differently. I would look, if I were to look at some of my earlier work, I would go, oh, I get why I was doing it that way, but that's not probably how I would do it today. I might make these changes off the top of my head. And I think that's really, really cool. I love that. I think it's a cool way to see somebody iterate on a piece rather than. And I also, honestly, it's nice because the chase for making something new is exhausting. Like it is. I'm an open book. I'm a very open book when it comes to all things in the design space, and part of that is financials because this is now my full-time job. And like financially, the smart play is to make something new. That's what people buy. They buy something new more than they buy supplements for your existing thing. Unless you're one of the people who got real fucking lucky and got a lot of people to play your game and they're playing it over and over and over again. Like John Harper's going to do great with the new Blades thing because it's John Harper and everybody plays Lights in the Dark. But like if I spent more of my design space just being like, actually, I'm just going to make more stuff for, and then just pick any of my games like Nova or Slayers and just say, I'm only going to make things for this. It wouldn't be a good idea if I wanted to have food. It'd be really fun for me, but it wouldn't be a good idea for me to make money. I
have a baby now. I can't make Luna 2. Stop writing.
Like, as cool as it would be to just make like a supplement for Luna, it's like, here's 3 more classes. That's just a wholly unviable thing for me to do. So there's this chase for new, right? You gotta just, what's my new idea? What's my next new thing that somebody is going to want to buy? So when people do take the time to go, actually, I kind of want to just come back to this thing that I did before and I want to be back in this space again, I think that's really cool. And I think it's worth like celebrating when somebody goes, I want to do the second edition, I want to remaster, or whatever you want to call it, this thing that I've looked at before. It will probably be a new thing, but it's not the same thing as like, I've got a wholly new game that's a new shiny thing because you have to have the new shiny thing. It's like, did you like this thing when it was shiny before? I've polished it off. Do you want it again?
Did you miss when it was shiny? Because it's shiny. It's shiny now.
Right. That's a different audience that you're talking to. And it's a risky thing to do. And so I'm appreciative when folks do that as well. I think it's a cool thing and it should be celebrated.
This might not even be a how question, but I'm going to start with a how. How do you think you hit that point as a designer? Like where you have I don't want to say how do you become a John Harper, but in so many words, how do you become John Harper? Like,
yeah.
I feel like your answer is going to be like, if I knew, I'd tell you, but
yeah, I mean, that's if I knew, I would tell you. I'll say this. I count myself very, very lucky that I'm successful enough in this space that I'm able to do this as a full-time job now, and it is a viable thing for me to do. I think the vast majority of people who are designing things for this in this space can't do that for a whole host of a billion different reasons. And if I was going to be totally honest with you, there's probably 2 reasons I'm able to do it this way. One is I make games that I think are pretty broadly appealing. If I say this is Destiny, the role-playing game, there's a lot of fucking people who are going to go, oh, okay, I'm into that.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Like, my games have a broad appeal, I will say, largely. Like what I'll call like my flagship games. I have a broad appeal. So like I have the ability, like Rune, which is my most popular game ever, it's a Souls-like game, right? And it came out when like Elden Ring was popular. So if I go, do you like Elden Ring? Do you like Dark Souls? Do you want to play a game by yourself? Here it is. People are going to go, I get that. I'll buy that. That's an easy sell. So that's part of it. I mean, John has done game design for a very, very long time. So like he's had time to build an audience so that naturally when like Blades of the Dark comes out, he's got an existing audience, but also Blades in the Dark is crime, an incredibly and heist, an incredibly popular genre that people like, and Dustfall is pretty similar to Dishonored, and people like Dishonored. So it's not altogether too surprising that it was really, really popular. The other side of this, the reason that I'm able to do this, and I can't speak to John or anybody else who does this full time, the reason I'm able to do this is because I come from an incredible amount of privilege that I'm able to do this in the first place, right? Like, I have a PhD. I was a professor. Like, I was good. like in terms of life, I had enough stability in my life and capital in my life that I could take risks early on in game design to like support my stuff. And that's just not a universally true thing at all. And so I have to always acknowledge that the fact that I'm doing this full time isn't purely just because I think I'm good at it. Like, I am good at it, but it is also because I had a lot of stuff kind of in my favor already that allowed me to do this the way that I did it in the first place.
No, and that's a great answer. I feel like a lot of time in the indie space is spent like trying to chase the new thing, or like trying to be the new thing, where I almost feel like sometimes you should be chasing yourself. You should be trying to make the best game you can and make that a thing. And because when lightning strikes, it's gonna strike. I doubt when John was making Blades in the Dark, he probably knew he had something because, he'd been around enough. He probably knew when something had the juice, but he probably wasn't like, and it's going to sell 1 million and we're going to do a whole, he was just trying to make the best version of the thing that he had. And I
agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's fine. I was just saying, like, part of why I made this podcast is I always wonder how much time and effort, designers and creatives spend, like, considering what effort to put where, in the way that, you sort of very, very plainly and clearly talked about, of like, speaking from like financial viability versus, creative, ingenuity or expression. Like, what do you do? And the answer is shrug to some extent.
It really is shrug. Like, for me, when I'm thinking about what things to work on, I have to now prioritize things that I think are going to be successful. And when I say successful, I mean financially successful. Like, people will buy this game. That doesn't mean I don't make things that I don't think are going to work. I just have to treat those things as more passion projects, and I have to just categorize them in my brain and treat them like that. Not only so that I feel that I can have fun with the design, like it can just be like a safe space to design of like, this game nobody could play this game and I'll be totally happy because I made it for me. And that's good to have that. And then, because this is, again, my full-time job, I have to have the games where it's like, okay, which of these projects are most likely going to get more eyes on it? And like, which one is going to have a successful Kickstarter and stuff like that? And I'll also kind of speaking to the other thing you mentioned of like making the best game like that you can make, I think is also really, really important, rather than like trend chasing and saying like, this is like the next hot genre, let's make something in this system because everybody's making things in this system. Like, I think it is important to have like an identity as a designer so that people can go, oh, it's another Spencer Campbell game, which means it's probably going to play like this. And while that's not universally true for all of my games, I think most people, if they see that Spencer Campbell or Guild RPGs has released a game, they could probably have a pretty good idea about what that gameplay experience is going to be like without having to ever look at the book itself. And they know then, if I like these sorts of things, I'm going to just buy the next Guild RPGs thing because I like those things. And if they don't, they go, great, I don't have to think about Guild RPGs because he doesn't make games that I like. And that's great. It was like 2 Gen Cons ago. I was out with friends, and Sam Sorensen, who is like an academic in this space, in the RPG and game design space, blew my fucking mind. Like, we were just sitting there and he looked at me and he goes, yeah, I'll tell you what a Spencer Campbell game is. And I don't even know what prompted him to do this. But then he spoke for like 2 minutes straight. And the stream of consciousness that came from his mind, it's as if he like knew my soul as he was describing me. And it was really cool to hear, but it was also really, it was nice because I went, okay. Like Sam knows what I do. Like, and my games have sort of like a unified style or voice or something to it, so that again, if you want a Spencer Campbell game, if you like those things that Sam just said for 2 minutes straight that I can't recreate because it was this wild stream of consciousness, then like, cool, you can count on me. I'm not gonna write the next like cool lyric game that blows people's minds. It's just not what I'm gonna do. I'm not going to do that. It's just not what I do. And so people can kind of reliably go, this is a Spencer Campbell thing, I like it, or I don't like the kind of games that Spencer makes, so I just won't play him. And that's great too. It's honestly great.
Well, and it's good to like you said, like it's good to have that strong of an identity. I like the idea that Sam didn't speak words to you so much as he just sort of like opened his mouth and you were like buffeted by the winds of like like it's like at the end of Dogma where like the Metatron yells and everybody's just like, oh, and like that.
He's an academic and I'm an academic as well, so it was actually honestly very refreshing to hear another person like talk about something like it's kind of articulated in the way that like a sort of an academic talks about things, where I was like, shit, he really fucking gets it, and he knows how to express it in a way that I think academics are very good at doing. That I think I probably appreciated. That again, the reason I can't articulate is probably because academics are not good at expressing things in a way that universally are understandable or helpful to people. But yes, in that moment, I was struck by academic awe, and it was a really nice experience.
I like that. That's such a fun thing. Like I love hearing stories of like designers recognizing each other in that way, and that creativity moment of like oh, like, yeah, like you saw through you didn't like read what I read on what I put on the page or whatever like that. Like you saw through that into me, and so now you understand what I like, how I do games like this because of this and this and this.
Yeah, exactly. It was super cool.
I had a question. Shoot, what was it? Damn.
Happens to the best of us.
I tried to write them down. Like I got all my, I got notes and I'm making little notes and I didn't write it down. We were too in the sauce. Oh, well, this wasn't what I was going to ask, but we'll go back to it. So in the Rascal article that I mentioned, and then we walked away from, and then we're walking back to, you in a way that like I've been obsessed with since I read it. You said that like, I don't want to say like there's a timetable left, but like you feel like you will reach a point where you are finished designing games. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a very interesting thing to understand and recognize and articulate. And I'm curious how you came to that and kind of what that means to you as a designer.
Yeah, I mean that comes from a lot of different places. One aspect is like we just talked about is like I have a very specific type of game that I design, and so that is very fun for me to design. It's very comfortable for me to design too because I've done it for a long enough time. But it also means that there's probably a clock or an end point to how many times I can make games that are like a certain thing over and over and over again before I go, this isn't fun, or other people go, really again? And so there's a certain amount of runway that I have on that alone. But there's also the aspect of there's sort of like two other things, which is like one, if this is going to be my full-time gig, it is exhausting to try and chase like the next new thing and making a new thing and making a new thing and making a new thing. And so, I want to be able to I want to do the thing that I expressed earlier of these are my flagship games and I want to just support them. I want to just say like, these are like the 5 games that I really, really love that I think are foundational to who I am. And I just want to make more stuff for them because that is also how you get people to play your game and to eventually get a wider audience of playing it, is if there's more stuff, people might be more interested in playing it. So I think that would be a fun thing for me to do, to eventually just be like, these are my games. These are like the 5 that I want to talk about and I want to write about. I want to design for. And so it's not that I necessarily stopped designing games. I stopped making new things, like wholly new games and things like that. And I say now, okay, let's make a fun little like campaign for Rune. Let's make a cool optional rule supplement for Slayers. Things like that would be like a really cool space for me to be. I think I would have a lot of fun in that. And then ultimately, sort of like the other thing is, I would like to be able to explore these games in ways that isn't role-playing games. So again, it's not that I stopped designing games, but maybe I make a card game or a board game. Maybe I do fiction writing for a while and allow myself and others to explore these games and these settings in other ways that isn't necessarily, here's a new RPG that allows you to get a new story experience in the setting. Like, I could just write a fucking story instead, right? Like, do I need to make rules for it? No, I could just write a cool story and be like, I got that idea out of my head. And like, that would be I think that would be a very fulfilling thing to do. And that's only possible, again, if I have like a foundation of games that are going to like carry me forward, right? Like, I can't just stop designing now and be like, I'm going to become a fiction writer. That's a disaster. My wife will kill me. Will not be a good idea. But if I have built up my worlds, going back to what I said in the beginning, where the fact that Aaron Voigt made a Novaverse video, like something, I'm doing something right. So if I keep doing that to the point where I can just like make Nova stuff, it doesn't have to be like the next Nova game, but just here's more Nova stuff. That would be a really fun space for me to be. Like my pie in the sky, like dream scenario is to run the living RPG where like we create like a shared world map. People play the game and then they send me the play data like on a weekly or bi-weekly data or schedule. I update the world map based off of like the experiences of the people who are playing around the world. And so it's a living world where your table is in the same world as everywhere. It's like an MMORPG, or like it's even like it's like Helldivers almost, right? Mm-hmm. Like Helldivers of that like Planetfall game and stuff like that, where like the game of all, like that's my that would be the coolest. Matt, I would love to do that. Like, I would love that to be my job, where it's just, I've made the Nova living world. I don't need to write anything out. I just run the world. And I just, people send me stuff and I update the world. And every month the GMs get a big old update docket that says, here's how the world has changed. Here's some mechanical changes. I'll see you in a month. That's the real ideal.
Yeah, I'd be down for that. That sounds great. I like that the eventual evolution of Gila RPG's let's make a video game into a TTRPG is let's make a TTRPG into an MMO.
Yeah.
Like, that's the final, like, of course that's the final form. What else could it be?
Right. Exactly.
Let's
you see me, you get it.
Let's make Nova EverQuest.
Yeah. Why not?
Spencer's taking a vacation for 2 weeks, so server maintenance, so nobody
servers are down.
Servers are down, so you can't play any games.
Nobody plays Nova for the next 2 weeks.
That would actually be really funny to have to send an email out to everybody like, you can't play Nova, play something else.
You're not allowed.
Yeah, no. You can play, just don't. It's not going to mean nothing.
Yeah. It's not canonical anymore. Whatever you do over the next 2 weeks is non-canonical.
Oh, that's funnier. That's funnier than anything. The non-canonical TTRPG play.
Yeah.
This TTRPG game has not been approved by the Vatican.
Yep. That's my new thing.
I love that. That's so silly and stupid and good. God, in the way that all the best video game stuff is stupid and silly and good.
Yeah,
that's stupid and silly and good.
Thank you.
So we're coming up on 2 hours, and so in the interest of keeping it 2 hours, like I always say, let's jump into homework. So If this is your first time listening, first of all, hi, welcome. Thank you for clicking on this link from Spencer's Blue Sky. Homework is a bit where the guest just tells you about some stuff that they think is cool for a little bit. Just a couple items of whatever they want. It doesn't have to be related to this or their work or whatever. Just a way to sort of further their promotion net. Sending love to the homies, as I like to call it in my Discord, of the way of just like, this isn't necessarily my stuff. This is stuff I think is cool and stuff I think you should check out. So, Spencer, take it away.
So, the timing is outrageous. I was going to shout out Aaron Voigt anyway.
This is fair. Aaron's amazing. Right. I watched Aaron's Going Rogue video just the other day, and that's fantastic. So
I was going to shout out Aaron anyway, because I think incredible person. I've been fortunate enough to play games with Aaron. Aaron was the person who ran Spire and Luna. So Aaron is great designer, cool writer, great writer. Obviously, the thing that I want to shout out is the YouTube essays that Aaron creates. They're so cool. And which is even cooler is that he wrote this, or he put out a video that is guidance on making your own YouTube essays, video essays, which is really, really cool. It's really important for Aaron to have more people in the space doing this. And so created an unbelievable resource to help other people do that. So I want more people doing these sorts of long form video essays in the RPG space, and Aaron's the top of the list and created something really cool for other people to check out. So that's my first shout out, is to Aaron Voigt, who it seems like I'm shilling because he just happened to today release a video that was about one of my games. But I swear, I was going to say Aaron before that happened.
Here's a time-stamped note on my phone that says Aaron.
There you go. See? My other shout out in the RPG space goes to Josh Hiddie, who is personally one of my favorite designers in the space. Josh is his handle is Ostrich Monkey on Blue Sky, and I think that's I think that's also his itch page as well. Josh is incredible. I've known Josh for years. Josh was actually one of the first people who made a Lumen game when the Lumen SRD came out, which is sort of how I first got introduced to him. I also learned that he lives 10 minutes away from me, which is really weird, which is cool. But I don't know, the way that Josh thinks about games, and then when I think of vibes, oh my God, I think of Josh Hiddie so much. He's just immaculate, especially when we're talking about weird vibes or sci-fi vibes or occult or just weird shit. Josh is really, really good at that. And I like that stuff. And I like that stuff, and I'm not as good at writing it myself. So whenever I read Josh making stuff, I go it's so good. It's so good. So I just want to shout out Josh as an overall designer, of somebody I think more people should be keeping an eye on, because I think he does really, really cool work. The third thing that I want to shout out has nothing to do with RPGs, but I think everybody, if you have a Netflix account, should be watching The Devil's Plan. Season 2 is out. The new episodes, the final episodes, are coming out tomorrow. I think Devil's Plan is probably my favorite TV show of all time. It is incredible. If you're not familiar with it, it is a Korean game show, and it is a game show. It is incredible. They in the first season, they bring in a dozen of the smartest people from around Korea, and they put them into a bunker, essentially. And it's a cutthroat elimination game that they are doing just the wildest, coolest games, and watching them kind of battle it out, but in true Korean style. This is something that I've learned from my wife is Korean. I've learned from my wife over the many years, is even when you're competing, you're still kind of like on the same team. Like they're so cooperative at the same time. Like even though only one person can win at the end, like the amount of teamwork that goes on, even when it's not necessary, makes it really fun to watch. Because like I think if it was the same premise but it was a bunch of Americans doing it, it would suck. I think it would just be bad because they would just be assholes to each other. But it's the fact that it's this really brainy kind of competitive thing that they're all very, very friendly about is awesome. Like I think that's just very, very good. It's similar to that vibe, by the way, just is similar. Like there's a ton of good Korean shows, but there's a Korean cooking show competition that like it's a cooking competition. You shouldn't be helping each other, but like they like will just help each other. It's kind of like in the Great British Baking Show when they help each other and you're like, oh, isn't that delightful? Like yeah, only one of them is gonna win, but they like will help each other get to the finish line. But the Devil's Plan, the twists, the layers, it's insane. It's so good. If you just like games, like you will like this show. So watch it. Watch The Devil's Plan.
Yeah, I really want to watch The Devil's Plan. JJY, the series director, has done a show that I love, and if you enjoyed Devil's Plan, I think you might also enjoy, called The Great Escape, which is a spinoff of another Korean variety show, but is basically Korean like celebrities getting together and going through and solving the most elaborate escape rooms you've ever seen. There's a new season coming very soon, which after a break before COVID is very exciting. And then he also had he did The Genius, which was a huge breakout show, very similar to Devil's Plan. So yeah, Jung Jin Young as I'm very excited to watch Devil's Plan because I'm familiar with his other stuff, and it's one of those things like I just gotta sit down and watch it.
It's so good, and I'm so excited for it to be tomorrow so that I can watch the season 2 finale, because it's been a really good season. And shouting out kind of just to like a general theme that we talked about earlier, in season 1, one of the contestants is a professional StarCraft player. It's a white guy. It's a foreigner. It's a Weigukin he can speak Korean because he moved to Korea because he's a professional StarCraft player. And I was like, wait a minute, I know who that is. So it all comes back to StarCraft at the end of the day.
God, I love the idea that it's like, why did Spencer Campbell start designing RPGs? Well, StarCraft. You're familiar with StarCraft.
So in 1998, there was a computer game.
Yeah, so Blizzard released StarCraft for the personal computer. We have to start there. Oh, yeah. That's so good. And your shout out with Josh is I just want to point out exactly what I want as an example for homework, like the perfect example to me for that of like, here's a designer that's doing stuff that I find inspiring. Here's a designer that I like, that like I feel like people aren't on as much as the quality of their work deserves. It's like that's the perfect example for me. Because I feel like that's the sort of thing that like will make people's names, you know, of like, oh, this person said they like my stuff, like boom, you know. So I love the idea of being able to like facilitate those moments and getting people's names out there.
To throw in one more anecdote, that is exactly that thing, and to throw in John Harper's name one more time. When I did the Slayers Kickstarter years ago, it was doing, you know, it had funded and everything, but there was a clear point where John Harper, this is when Twitter was okay, did like a quote tweet of the Slayers thing and said, hey, this looks really cool. And I watched on Kickstarter for 45 minutes when $2,000 just got like pledged to keep it. $2,000 in 45 minutes.
Just the line just went boop.
Because John Harper said this looks cool. Right?
It looks cool.
Like that's all it took. And I went, well, all the shouting in the world that I do is not going to be nearly as impactful. So yes, if you have the ability, shout out people who you think other people should look at. I think that's really important.
Yeah. And I shamelessly ripped this part off of a podcast I was on, and I was like, This is perfect. I love this. I want to do this forever. So wonderful.
Great.
Thank you for your effort on that.
I hope I got an A. As a former teacher, I hope I got an A on my homework.
Well, I mean, it's the listener who's getting judged on their homework. So if you want to get an A on your homework, make sure you go watch Devil's Plan, follow Josh Hitty, and watch every single one of Aaron Voigt's videos and subscribe. Subscribe to his Patreon
3 times.
Speaking of 3, since this is the end, before we get into it, Spencer, thank you so much for being on. This was absolutely fantastic. I might cut it out of the intro, but I'll say it again here so that I can't cut it out. I can't be a coward. I've said 4 different times at the very least that my dream guest for this podcast would be Spencer Campbell. And we did it. And so I guess this is the end of the podcast. I don't know what to do now. That's not true. I already have another interview lined up.
End of podcast.
This is the final shape. And there's a new season coming tomorrow, so I hope everyone's very excited.
Oh, damn it, it all comes back. Our callbacks today have been very good.
we've been on it. I love it. So here at the end, this is the 3 question. This is I did this in the first episode with the wonderful Star. I asked her who her 3 favorite guests would be to have on her podcast. And so I ask a similar question here at the end. I come up with it completely randomly. It's just a fun way to end the episode and sort of put you on the spot a little bit. Spencer, your 3 question, it can only be this. What are your top 3 Destiny exotics?
Oh man. Okay.
I'm gonna learn a lot about your main by which 3 you pick.
Yeah.
I'm gonna learn a lot about your play style.
Nezarec Sin.
Oh, Spencer, you're my boy.
I'm a warlock main. I really only play. And of course, I love weird void shit. So Nezarec Sin is I just love it. I think it's really, really good.
I'm in love with Spencer Campbell now, everybody. I want you to know.
My number 2 is purely based off of the look of it, is the Stag, which is the warlock helm that is kind of a weird. Everybody loves a weird deer, like a weird creepy deer. Like it's just good. So like, yeah, like is it practically what I like to use as an exotic? No, but do I like to wear it because it looks cool? Yes. So that is a shout out.
The ornament fort is really good.
It's really, really good.
It's better than that exotic deserves.
Yes, so much better. Yeah. They didn't get the ratio right on art to execution mechanics. And then Osteostriga is, I mean, if I don't like to play weird void stuff, I like to play weird corrupting stuff. So if I can have an SMG that shoots weird corrupting like bugs at people, wait, oh no, I want to take back my answers.
Listen, that's fully within the rules. That's fully within. I've said before, the correct way to answer this question is to hear top 3 and then give me 5 answers.
Okay, because the other 2 obvious choices are Thorn, and then I am a Malfeasance fiend. I think it's a great gun. I like it a lot. But that's because I got the Dredgen title early on because I was a Gambit person. I played a lot of Gambit. Buddy. And yes, this
has been on my desk for years.
Yes.
The first season you could do it.
So getting Malfeasance was like, I feel like this gun is a part of my identity as a Destiny player because of doing what I needed to get the Dredgen title. So those Thorn based purely on vibes. Like I just love I love weird evil guns, and I think Thorn is the best because it's also kind of like a weird West gun. And then Malfeasance because of the blood, sweat, and tears that us Dredgens put into to make that happen.
Better to work for it, damn it.
Yeah, exactly. I just hand it away. So yeah, those are my 5 top 3 Destiny exotics.
Perfect answers all around. Wonderful. With that, it's over. with that, that's it. That's the end. What a perfect way to end it. I'm so pleased.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really, really a delight. I had an unbelievably good time.
No, thank you. I keep saying, I can't believe people keep saying yes, and then people keep saying yes, and it is so. It makes me happy because one, I get to talk to amazing people and have amazing conversations, and that is a joy to me specifically. And then also, I am so happy to give people a place to talk about their stuff and talk about, you know, their processes and their thoughts and all of this. And then, you know, it's why I just like so shamelessly ripped off the idea of homework, of giving people a further opportunity to be like, here are cool people that you should go check out. And like, that's everything I want for the podcast. So like, this has been such a friggin' delight. So Spencer, thank you so much. I'll say here at the end, when you're listening this, the Kickstarter campaign for Dragon Slayers should be live. I hope you backed the, oh my God, what's the full name of the Corvid one? Why can't I think of it right now?
Corvid Court Aviary.
Corvid Court Aviary Edition, right. I hope you back that, because that was really quick. You're definitely not going to hear this while that's active. It's definitely not going to happen. I hope you got notifications turned on. I hope you're following. But yeah, everything will be in the show notes, all the links. There's probably gonna be some Destiny videos in there. There's gonna be some weird Destiny lore videos in there. So I hope you're ready. There's a lot of malfeasance lore. Get ready.
Yeah.
Get ready.
Let's go pull up the Bife videos for all of these real quick.
Yeah. Listen, you watch like a 7-hour Bife Here's All the Destiny lore video. I've done it. Yeah, I'm proud of it. I did it. But Spencer, thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. Go ahead. Say bye, everybody.
Bye.
That's the interview. I want to thank Spencer so much, first of all, for taking time away from taking care of his child to be on the podcast. I really, really appreciate that. I said it during the episode. Spencer was one of the first people that I wrote down that would be really cool to get on the podcast. You know, people that were names that jumped to the front of my mind when I said, who is somebody doing something cool that I would love to have on the podcast? And it's an incredible honor to be able to say, I've interviewed everybody that I wrote down from that first list. And more than that, I've been able to reach out and connect and talk to an amazing breadth of people outside of that list. So first of all, thank you so much for listening. This is episode 27, and we're coming up on a year of when I started workshopping this and this actually being a thing as opposed to an idea that I had in my head for years and years. So thank you to Spencer, and thank you to everybody that's been on the show so far. That's made it fantastic. I have a couple episodes already backlogged. Editing a podcast is hard, and I didn't have the spoons for it. So I'm sorry for the kind of delay for some of these, but we're getting back to it. Like I said in the intro, this was recorded about 2 months ago. So since we had that interview, my wife and I have actually watched season 1 and 2 of Devil's Plan, like Spencer recommended. And let me tell you, he's right. They're fantastic. So if nothing else, if Spencer 2 months ago suggesting it didn't sell you, me now, go watch it. Go check it out. It's very, very enjoyable. It's so good. It's such a good time. Just fantastic dinner TV. Just go watch it. This is the fun bit at the end where I say, hey, please consider rating the show on iTunes, or I know Pocket Cast has ratings now. Wherever you listen, if you have the ability to rate, please go ahead, give it 5 stars. If you think it's worth 5 stars, give it a rating. That would be incredible. Those sort of little algorithmic things let people know, hey, people like this podcast, people check it out, people have a good time with it. And if you have the ability, if you've got a couple extra dollars in your pocket, you can head over to the Patreon for the show. That helps me pay for hosting, which, not a big ask. But over at the Patreon, if you do subscribe at either tier, there's the early bird and the regular tier, you can contribute to the Q&A thread that I put up every time I have a guest scheduled. There's at least one up right now for a guest that is upcoming. I'm not going to spoil it here. You got to go to the Patreon and check it out. And if you back at any tier, you have the ability to add to that Q&A thread. So any questions you have that you would like to hear, any questions you have you'd like to hear on the show, you can back at the Patreon and you drop them in there. And more than likely, if they're not terrible, they'll show up on the show. Plus One EXP is a fantastic place to go to find new and exciting indie TTRPGs. They're also the home to the RPG Zine Club, an ongoing project to get smaller games printed and shipped out to people in a timely fashion. I love it. It's been so cool to see the games that are popping up. I just got my new email for Zine Club with my copy of Apocalypse Road Trip, which looks really, really exciting. And I've already had the copy of Ball Game, which there are too many games to sit down and read. But let me tell you, RPG Zine Club is absolutely worth the money. And on that note, you can use coupon code WD Podcast to get 10% off your first month of RPG Zine Club or any purchase at all on the website, physical or digital. You want a book, you want a PDF, you want a couple little books or PDFs, you get a discount. WD Podcast. Thank you again to Tony and everybody over at Plus One EXP. 1 for the coupon code, 2 for being amazing. If you're going to PAX Unplugged here in a couple months, I highly suggest you seek out the Plus One EXP booth. Tell Tony I said hi. Like I said, I've got a bunch of episodes backlogged, so you'll see those coming out here in a little bit. But until then, have a good one.